Every once in a while, the makers of a successful movie will release a black and white version of it, and almost always, everyone loves them. And I think there is one obvious reason why. It looks absolutely amazing. So if you want to shoot images like this, sit back and strap in. First, we'll discuss what it is about black and white that makes it look so good, and then I'll teach you how to apply these principles to dramatically improve your work. Alright, so first let's talk about the marks that only black and white can hit, because there are characteristics inherent to black and white that color just cannot replicate. The human mind has an amazing ability to take in a lot of information, but we can't really process all of it at the same time. So even if you aren't paying attention to the colors, your subconscious is. That's raw brain power that could have been used to process the image, to understand what's going on, and to evaluate the quality of the art being presented. But you're so completely overloaded with visual information that you don't think about any of that. A great example of this is Fury Road. It's an absolutely frenetic movie. There's a lot happening, and the filmmakers had to work really hard to make sure that everything important was easy to understand. And to be fair, they managed to do an excellent job in the color version. But as soon as you switch over to black and white, you instantaneously realize just how much easier it is to understand what's happening. Let's take a look at this scene. There's little to no dialogue, so the visuals are doing all the work of telling us that there are 3 vehicles. They're chasing each other, they're all inside a giant sandstorm, that there's lightning, and they're headed toward this tornado kind of thing. In the color version, it takes a few seconds to work all of this out. But in black and white, we really only need 1 frame. Firstly, we're naturally attracted to the brightest parts of the image, and that helps tell us where we should be looking. This makes it way easier to understand where everything is. And finally, we manage to understand how they are interacting with each other. The other big reason why black and white images are easier to interpret is the high levels of contrast. Okay, so this is really hard to read because the text and background are very close in color and luminance. In comparison, white on black or black on white is much easier to see. This is because of contrast. The easier it is for us to determine where the edges of the letters are, the quicker we manage to understand. This is the reason why most print is in black on white on black, bright on dark, or dark on bright. It makes it easier to read. Black and white inherently has a lot of contrast because black and white are the furthest away in terms of color and luminance. But the masters of black and white cinema take this even further with the quality of their compositions. Take a look at this shot. We have a character wearing dark clothes in front of a white background, and a brightly lit whiter character in front of a very, very dark background. So what ends up happening is that a lot of the work our eyes and brains need to do to decipher the image has already been done for us. And we find it a lot easier to understand what the image is trying to tell us. And this frees up processing power to think about other things. And one of the most important things that you want the audience to think about is the characters and what they are feeling. In particular, you want a way to direct the audience's attention towards faces. And black and white does exactly that. I don't know what it is, but if you put the color version and the black and white version next to each other, the black and white somehow draws your attention more towards the face. This is a very powerful tool because you end up noticing even the smallest, most nuanced acting choices the actors use to emote. And then there is something that black and white can do that simply has no comparison in color. Generally, when we see something on a screen, we are comparing it to something that we've seen in real life. That's why, even though you might not know why, you can still tell that there is something wrong with the fire in this shot. And if you're interested, it's that the shot is in reverse. But when looking at black and white, we don't really have a real-life comparison to make. And so we end up comparing it to classical movies, to art, and sometimes even our dreams. We shift to a different state of mind when we see black and white. We expect a greater degree of care to have been taken in making it. And so black and white is a great way to signal to your audience that your work has meaning. So now let's try and apply all of this awesome sauce to our work. The camera that we have with us most often is our phone. There's a great feature on most modern phones that converts the whole device into monochrome. On Pixel phones, this is called bedtime mode and can be activated very quickly through this slide down menu. There are similar modes on almost all smartphones. The reason why we want to turn this mode on and then use it as often as possible is that seeing the world in black and white transforms your vision. There's an automatic emphasis on things that were lost in the mix before. The thing that you're going to notice first is that you will probably start to see light for the first time in your life. You'll notice where the sources are and how the light falls across different subjects, how it highlights certain things, and how you can isolate subjects by placing a lighter subject on a darker background or a darker subject on a lighter background. The other thing that you will begin to notice when you look at the world in black and white is that everything has texture. Color is so emphatic that it captures all of our attention, and it's only when we start using black and white that we can see how beautiful and worthy of photographing textures alone are. A key part of photography isn't just the subject, it's placing the subject in the frame in a way that accentuates the subject. The easiest way to see this is to simplify the image into basic shapes. You'll notice that the pictures that are most visually appealing to you also have the simplest compositions when we reduce them to basic shapes. A key strength of black and white is that it actively helps us in this simplification. The lack of color almost forces us into thinking in terms of basic shapes. So when shooting in black and white, we don't even have to actively think about improving this skill. We just start to acquire it automatically. By this point, you might be thinking, wow, that's all really great, but what if I want to show things that only work in color? Let's take a look at a few shots from one of the best cinematographers still working today, Roger Deakins. In these shots, you'll notice that the principles that we emphasized in black and white are absolutely present. He's using them to create these fantastic images. The way that he understands where and how light is falling, his appreciation for textures, the way that he ensures that there is contrast, appreciation of simplified shapes, the beautifying of faces, it's all there. So you see, the true value of practicing in black and white is that we learn the fundamentals of image making. It gives us access to a more primal, almost primitive way of seeing the world. And when we apply that knowledge to color, we ensure that the color is really, really powerful.